Sheikh Yasser, you spent that time in Medina, and when we were there, it's so beautiful to see so many lovers of the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa ala alihi, to go there, to visit him, alayhi salam, to pray in his masjid. Did you happen to do the visitation of the Prophet, alayhi salatu salam, like right after Jum'ah prayer? Were you there for Jum'ah?
I was there for one Jummah, but I did not do visitation after Jummah, no.
Oh, it's an experience that
Mm,
everyone who's listening, you have to do, because it is such an enormous crowd of
mm,
lovers of the Messenger of God, alayhi salatu wassalam, and you get in there and you're like, it's like Hajj, you know, and the crowd is just pushing you in the ziyarah, which
yeah.
typically takes, 15 minutes or so. Now that they have this sort of path
No,
that
that's
you have to
lucky,
follow.
lucky if it's 15 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. But when you're there with that crowd, it's like 1 hour, but it's so
Mhm.
beautiful because, like, it's a procession
Sure, yeah.
to visit the King of Kings, Sayyidina
Allah,
Nabi alayhi salatu
yeah.
wassalam.
No, it
Well,
was,
everyone,
Medina is just, it's pure beauty, pure Jamal.
Allahu Akbar.
And, I usually with my group, like the prophetic living group, we do majority Medina. And
Right.
then we kind of spend a few days, just a couple of days in Mecca. And I explained to the group, right now we're in need of a lot of Jamal. We're in need of a lot of
Allahu
beauty,
Akbar. Yeah.
and the healing that happens. I think the spiritual clarity, the grounding, and just the time that you get to spend in the company of Al Habib sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's quality time,
Yeah.
because in the Haram al Madani you could really spend time, in the masjid, and spend all day if you want and do your wird, and there's no pressure to move and stuff of that nature. Whereas the Haram al Makki, has its complexities, structural complexities right now. So you can't really sit there and enjoy the Kaaba. But regardless, Mecca is Jalal. You go
Yeah.
to Mecca, you feel the strength, the power, the quickness, the intensity. Um, but alhamdulillah, regardless, there is, as Shaykh Mukhtar always says, who is, Jalilun fi jamalihi wa jamilun fi
Allahu
jalalihi.
Akbar.
So
Allahu
there's
Akbar. A lesson for all of us to
majestic,
learn.
majestic in his beauty, and beautiful in his majesty.
Allahu Akbar. Sheikh Yasser, whenever I'm in Medina and when I'm, in the proximity of the Prophet sallallahu
Sallallahu
ta'ala
alayhi
alayhi
wa
wa ala alihi, I feel like all my anxieties go away. Everything's okay. There's no problems. Like,
sallam.
yay.
Well, صدقت. It's amazing. Habib, what's amazing is the past couple of years, I've been taking a lot of kids with us on the trip.
Mm,
And so we make it very family forward, kids heavy. And I'll tell you something, it's one of the most nourishing and motivating and inspiring experiences is to see the children and how they're impacted by Al Habib sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the anwar of Al Habib sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I mean, kids who their parents would say, "This is my kid," because the children are so close to the fitra, and they're still so pure in ways that we're not. And when they're close to that, so the purest source, the purest nectar of beauty, of mercy, the way they feel it and experience it is profound, is
mm.
truly profound. This year, wallahi, one of the boys, 10 years old, Zain Habibi, there's two Zains that just blew us away, each with their own unique qualities. But one of the Zains, I'm not joking, he had 100 of us bawling,
Wow.
crying, weeping like little kids.
Mm.
Simple reflections about his love for the Prophet,
Allahu
for
salli alayhi.
wanting to live. And then he said, I want to die in Medina. This is a 10-year-old
Allah.
who all he knows is video games and school, kalam, the stuff that kids do. And then he just tastes something in Medina, and he spoke about bullies, and he spoke about there's no, I just feel safe here, and I feel I've never been this happy. I just
Mm.
want to live and die here. And he said those words, and the way it struck us as a group, because it was so pure and sincere, it just, those moments, wallahi, there are moments that get etched in your psyche that,
Wallahi.
so ilahi نجني من كل ضيق بجاه المصطفى مولى
Aman.
الجميع وهب لي في المدينة قرارا ورزقا ثم دفنا في البقيع. That's the dua
Uh,
of the people of Medina.
Allah, I mean, you
You
know,
know,
it's interesting you're saying this, Sheikh Yasser, because I think hadith, it's Marwi in al-Bukhari, where Sayyidah Aisha says that they used to have some animals in the house of the Prophet, ﷺ, and the narrator say there were chickens,
mm,
and that were always like, you know, running
mm,
around and going crazy. But when the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa ala alihi would enter, they'd be still and calm. And so it's interesting you're saying Zayn,
uh-huh,
because you know we spent a few weeks in Medina al Habib, alayhi salatu, my family and my
mhm.
youngest son is Ahmed Zayn, and Ahmed Zayn is haraki. This guy wants to wrestle, he wants to fight, he wants to jump. Like to get Ahmed Zayn to calm down is an impossibility.
Awesome.
We entered the masjid of Sidna Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, and Ahmed Zayn became like this wali of Allah. Quiet, very reverent, praying nonstop sunan. Wallahi, Sheikh Yasser. And I
Mhm,
didn't say anything. And I'm just looking at
mhm.
him and with my son Muhammad and I, and of course Ali and Hassan, and I'm staring and I'm like, what's going on with Ahmed Zain? I'm like,
Awesome.
this is amazing. And so the Prophet, ﷺ, his presence is just transformative, you know?
Wallahi, it's actually beyond words. You know, it must be experienced, and I advise myself and all of my brothers and sisters. You know, my wife last year, we took our kids last year, and with the group, and you know, she in the reflection session, she said, you know, it's interesting when you're landing in Medina. There's nothing palpably in terms of like physical structures
Mm,
that you can identify as like when you're traveling across the world, you're like, oh, look at this amazing ocean or these amazing mountains or these amazing buildings. And you're usually traveling for the experience, for the cultural experience, for the entertainment experience, for rides, whatever the case is. Medina has none of those trappings,
yeah,
but it has the source of all beauty, of all
yeah,
joy, of all wonder. And so the fact that these children, they're going to Medina, and even the kids themselves, they'll talk about this. They'll say, like, in Medina, the attraction is being in the masjid next to the Prophet ﷺ.
alayhi salatu wasalam.
That's everything.
Yeah,
There's no games, there's no entertainment, there's not even that, like, food is not that great, you know, in and around Medina. I mean, out, if you move outside, but the direct vicinity, the shopping is not that interesting.
yeah,
It's about Al Habib. And so I advise, if any family that's listening really wants a rich, nourishing, holistic, familial experience,
yeah.
go spend time in the as hopefully being a guest of Al Habib, and
Allah,
that's something that you have to be invited to, you know, and
yeah, yeah,
you have
absolutely.
to be
Don't,
up. You have to. Allah has to give you success in your planning, because when we plan our years, we think about certain vacations, and we kind of have our minds dead set on. Well, I want to go to this vacation site. I want to go to this foreign country. I want to go to this destination. But you want to pray that Allah Subhanahu wa Taala guides your heart and your family's heart to find, because it has to be husband and wife, or you know, both
yeah.
equally. Like, we have to go to Medina and we have to visit. And when you see what it does to the children, you'll realize this is the only destination that I
Yeah,
should be
absolutely.
thinking about.
So anyone that's listening out there, if you planned a 2-week European vacation and you wanted to go to Paris or you wanted to go to London, change that. Have a
Like,
2-week vacation, go on Airbnb.com and rent an apartment in Medina al-Munawwara, live amongst the locals, be amongst the locals. And as Sheikh Yasser said, it'll be an amazing experience.